We have our wonderful president with us, President Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, how are you today, sir?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you.
It's a great honor to have you here, as you know, and you're very, very busy. First of all, I don't know where you get all this energy, but you're very busy. It's an amazing thing. I'm serious about this, though. You wake up in the morning, you say, there's things to do. I'm president for a short period of time, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to take on the hardest things in the world and do them. Is that your mentality?
Well, even in the campaign, I campaigned, it was 120 days out, and I said, you know what, every day, and I went every day. I didn't do anything. I didn't do golf. I didn't do sports. I didn't do anything. All I did was work, and I did 7 days a week, and I did, many rallies, oftentimes 2 or 3 a day, toward the end at least. And it was amazing. And I noticed that my opponent, Kamala, who you have great respect for, I know you think she's fantastic, would have been a fantastic president.
Yes.
But Kamala should put out her sheet. They put it out once a week, and it would be like she's off 3-4 days, or she was taking these huge chunks of time and not doing anything. And I said, you're going for the presidency of the United States. They would call that the gold ring, right? And you got 120 days. I would think every single day you have to be on. And she didn't do Joe Rogan. She didn't do a lot of the shows she could have done. And I don't know if she did you, but I tend to doubt it. But
Nope.
Certainly she should have done. But she didn't do a lot of things, and she had a lot of time off. And I said, when you have this one shot at something, you have to do it. And I worked. I don't think I've ever worked certainly more consistently than that. And it's just a carryover. We're doing a lot of great things. I think our country right now, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. They told me yesterday in the Oval Office, Mark, they were in, as you know, the really great leaders of great countries, very substantial countries, great countries, rich countries. They said the United States is the hottest country in the world right now. And everybody says essentially in the same pretty similar terms that a year ago our country was dead, and now you've got the hottest country in the world. And we are. The United States is the hottest country anywhere in the world right now.
Yeah, it is, and you've done that because clearly it was one of the coldest countries when Biden was president. Let me ask you a question.
It was cold, that's right.
You've got a lot of balls in the air with this Russia and Ukraine thing. You've got NATO, you got these NATO countries, you've got our national security interests, you've got Russia and Ukraine, their interests, and so forth and so on. Is there a method to this? In other words, you talk to the two main people first, then you talk to NATO. Is there a process here, or you just kind of go with the flow?
Well, it's probably instinct more than process. I have instincts, and, I've lived with my instinct about things. Even running for president, I had an instinct I'd win the first time, and I did even better the second time, as you know. I did much better.
Yeah.
But bad things happened. You covered probably better than anybody. Yeah. It was a disgrace. But, now I'm here, and a lot of big things are being found out about the election process from the first time and the second time, with all of the Comey stuff and all of the horrible things with Hillary and everything. And now this term, though, is far more powerful, and I think far more important than the second term could have been. Far more.
All right. So, obviously, you met with Putin, you met with Zelensky, you met with some of these NATO leaders and so forth. Are you optimistic? I know there's territorial issues, there's security issues, and God knows what else.
Well, you have to be a little bit optimistic. It's complicated. I've settled 6 wars, and a lot of people say 7 because there's one that nobody knows about. But I've settled 6 wars, and we did the Iran wiped out their whole nuclear capability, Beautiful. Which they would have used against Israel in 2 seconds if they had the chance. But we wiped it out. Did so many things. But the one that I thought would be the easiest was this one, actually, or one of the easier ones. And, like India and Pakistan, that was getting ready for nuclear weapons. They were shooting down airplanes from each other. There was a lot of bad things happening with many of them. Even the Congo, you go to Africa, the Congo and Rwanda, they've been fighting for 31 years. And I got it settled, all settled. They're all happy. Everybody's settled. Nobody's being killed. And it's, a lot of amazing things. You saw the Azerbaijan That was a big one going on for 34, 35 years with Albania. Think of that. I mean, going on for years. And I got to know the heads, and I got to know them through trade. I was dealing with them a little bit. I said, why are you guys fighting? And then I said, I'm not going to do a trade deal if you guys are going to fight. It's crazy. Anyway, one thing led to another, and I got that one settled. And that was a one that people said is not, you couldn't settle it. Even when I had them both in the Oval Office at the end when they were getting ready to sign, they were sitting next to each other. And they were trying to get away. They didn't feel good. By the end of an hour, they were hugging each other and congratulating each other. It was beautiful to watch, actually. But I've done all of them, and it's nobody's ever done anything like that in 6 months, or in a whole lifetime, or frankly, in 8 years, nobody's ever done. And most presidents never did one. Stopping 6 wars and doing all of the other things. We have the greatest economy right now. We have an unbelievable economy, but I like doing it. I like doing it. I love stopping the wars. I thought, though, that this one, because I actually had a good relationship with President Putin the first term, and despite the fact that we had Russia, don't forget, that's not easy to overcome when he sees these whack jobs. And he knew it was false because he wasn't involved. Not to say he's an angel, by the way, but he knew it was all a made-up thing, and, he probably thought we were totally crazy, this country. And we were. It was a very corrupt, bad situation. And actually put us in danger. If he and I didn't understand each other, it would have actually had us. We would have actually been in danger as a country.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've heard talk about security arrangements where the Europeans would lead the way, and also territorial concessions. We don't really know what that means yet.
Right.
Obviously, things, and it'd be foolish to reveal all this stuff. But in terms of security, they're really capable of the Europeans helping secure Ukraine because you have them beefing up their military. They can buy some of the best weapons on the face of the earth from us. Is that what you have in mind? Well,
they can. And, Biden spent $350 billion, it looks like, okay? Much more than $300 billion. Can you believe this? Mm-hmm. And spent all of that money, much of it in cash, much of it in weapons, but bought them tremendous amount. It cost the United States a fortune. And we have an ocean in between. We shouldn't have been much involved. If we could solve a war, it's great. They lose 5,000 to 7,000 people a week. And if I can do that for any country, I'd love to do that. I don't care if there's an ocean or no ocean between us. But in our case, there's an ocean in between. So Europe spent $100 billion, and that's a lot of money, but it's not $350 billion. And I was complaining about this for you. One of the reasons I ran, I said, this guy, why is he doing this? Look, he was grossly incompetent. He was incompetent 40 years ago, too. He didn't change so much. But he was really bad, and he spent $350 billion. I said, we're not going to do that. So the first thing I did is I got a rare earth deal from them, and that was worth more than the $350. Mm-hmm. So I felt at least better for the American taxpayer. And then most recently, I did what I did. I made a deal with NATO that NATO will buy the missiles and buy the weapons and buy everything else. It'll all go through NATO. They'll pay us. And we're not spending any money on the deal. People are amazed, actually, but we're not spending any money. Biden used to give away $60, $70 billion every time the president would come here. As you know, President Zelensky would come in and he'd say, this and that, and Biden would give him 60, 70, maybe even $100 billion. And you are a man that works hard for your money when you hear $100 billion, not $100 million. That's a lot, Mark, right? $100 billion with a B. And I don't blame Zelensky if you can do that. You're P.T. Barnum, the greatest salesman on earth, the greatest show on earth, right? But he got it, and to a point where we, are probably at that $350 billion mark. Nobody can even explain. Nobody even knows. If you say, give me a reconciliation, I want to see exactly. They don't even know where to start. The whole thing is ridiculous. But more importantly, the death being caused over there is incredible. So we're going to try and stop it, and I think we have a good shot. I had a very successful meeting with President Putin. I had a very successful meeting with President Zelensky, and now I thought it would be better if they met without me, just to see. I want to see what goes on. You know, they had a hard relationship, very bad relationship, and now we'll see how they do. And if necessary, and it probably would be, but if necessary, I'll go and I'll probably be able to get it closed. I just want to see what happens at the meeting. So they're in the process of setting it up, and we're going to see what happens. But you got to stop the killing, Mark. It's too much killing. I don't care. You know, you don't have to be. We're not. Again, nobody from America is being killed. We're not being killed. The United States soldiers aren't involved. We're not. We have no boots on the ground. But when you lose 6,000, 5,000, 7,000 young people, and then you also lose some people from the towns and cities as missiles get lobbed into them. Can you imagine living like that, where
no,
you have no idea whether or not your building's going to collapse on top of you? And that's where it is. And we have a shot, and I think I should do that. But it's when you do 6 of them, and they never even talk about that. Nobody, man, you're the only one that mentions it. And these are 6 big ones. These are not these. And these fights were rampant. You know, they were going. And how about Thailand and Cambodia? I mean, these were serious wars. That was just starting, but a lot of people were killed on the border. And I was talking to one of them, and I said, "What are you doing with the war?" He said, "Yes, I am. I am starting. We will have war." I said, "How long have you been fighting?" 500 years. I said, "That's a long time." But they've been fighting on and off. I said, when I heard 500 years, that was a little disconcerting. I said, that's a long time. But they've been fighting 500, over the years. Over years and years, they fight. They fight, then they go back to what they do, then they fight. And I was able to stop it. And not only able to stop it, the 2 gentlemen got to be very friendly in the list. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, but I stopped the war. So in theory, they should talk about those things, but nobody ever talks. You're the only one that talks about them. And these were serious. Look, India and Pakistan, 6 planes were shot down, and it was getting worse and worse. You saw that. And those are 2 nuclear places. Serbia and Kosovo is another one. I mean, that was going to be a disaster, and I stopped it. And there's one other one that I can't talk about that I stopped before it got started, and it's an honor to do it. You know how many people I saved? I saved like hundreds of thousands and even millions of people. That's the good feeling.
Now, let me ask you this, because I posted on this. When you look at Russia and Ukraine, Russia has been very aggressive towards Ukraine, Georgia, took the Crimea and so forth under Democrat and Republican presidents that preceded you.
Yeah.
And they invaded when you left office and Biden came in. It's like they waited. There's Biden, right. And then they moved.
They would have never done it with me, yeah.
And they never did. They didn't even think about it.
Putin said we wouldn't have done it if Trump were president. He made a strong statement the other. I didn't ask him to say it. He said this would have never happened. It really started with Obama because Obama gave away Crimea.
Right.
And Crimea was the heart and soul of that country. It's beautiful. It's, this massive piece of land stuck out right in the ocean, right in the
Black
Sea. So beautiful. I mean, it's so beautiful. And Obama said, you give it up to Russia. Then they say they like to say, that's just a soundbite, it's a standard. Trump was weak on Russia. I'm the one that stopped the pipeline, Nord Stream 2. They never even heard of Nord Stream 2. I'm the one that gave them javelins. Obama gave them sheets and I gave them javelins. Then they say Trump was weak. These people are con artists, and Putin will tell you that. Putin said, I'd hate to see if you were weak, I'd hate to see you if you were strong because you have been brutal. But I get along with Putin, and that's a good thing. It's 2 nuclear powers. It's always good to get along, right?
Well, apparently Hillary got along with Putin in her own strange way, trying to turn all that against you. Let me ask you this. I think this is probably why, look, I have no inside information. It's probably why Zelensky's nervous. He looks back and he says, okay, the only guy that stops these people is Trump. Now, what the hell are we going to do when Trump's gone? I'm supposed to rely on some Democrat or some weak Republican, so that's probably going through his head, don't you think?
It could be. It could be. But I'll tell you what, when Barack Hussein Obama gave away, he told them, you just give it up. There's not going to be any fighting. In other words, the United States wasn't going to be backing you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they gave it up. And the guy that gave it up is perhaps questionable, too. But they gave it up to Russia. Think of that. Mm-hmm. So they gave it up to Russia. And that was really the beginning of a disastrous long period for that country. That was the beginning. And nobody talks about that. If I gave up that land, I'd be on the front page of every paper for the next 20 years. When Obama gave it up, they don't even talk about it. Can you imagine? And then they talk about Donald Trump is friendly with Putin. You know, I didn't give him Crimea. Crimea is massive. I would say like the size of Texas or something in the middle of the ocean. It's gorgeous. And they gave it up because of Obama. And the press doesn't even talk about it.
Well, they don't talk about part of Georgia was taken under Republican president. They don't talk about a lot.
Bush.
But nothing was taken under you, was it?
No. They took the whole thing, the way I look at it, if I didn't come along. They took the whole thing under Biden. They took Crimea under Obama. And they took a big chunk of Georgia under Bush.
Right.
But with me, what was taken? Nothing was taken. Nothing. I came in. This thing was raging. I think it was heading to World War III. And you're not going to have that anymore. That's the nice part. You're not going to have to worry about that. But we'll see what happens in terms of getting it settled. But this was heading to World War III. This is the worst thing that's happened in terms of war. These are the biggest numbers that we've had since World War II.
Mm-hmm. And we have a ton of time left, but I wanted to ask you about this. Qatar and Egypt say, we think we have a ceasefire with Hamas. You know, the American people watch this over and over and over again. You had Witkoff there. You've been involved. Everybody's trying to get Hamas to give them. And what is it? We'll give them half the hostages. I think probably people have had enough of this, don't you?
Well, you saw my statement a few days ago.
I sure did.
So, first of all, they weren't going to give back any hostages. I'm the one that got all the hostages back. By the way, Steve Witkoff does a great job. It's, a very hard job, but I used him because he's a very wonderful person that everybody likes, and he's a good deal maker, and he's done a great job. But, these people also change their minds. So what happened is we worked hard. We got all these hostages back. I've had so many letters from parents and from the kids themselves and the people that got out. But I got them back, Mark. You wouldn't have even had any. You wouldn't have gotten any. And none of these people would have been back. But I got them back. Worked with your friend Bibi. He's a good man. He's in there fighting. He's fighting. They're trying to put him in jail on top of everything else. How about that? He's nuts. He's a war hero because we work together. He's a war hero. I guess I am too.
Yep.
Nobody cares, but I am too. I mean, I sent those planes. 22 years. The pilots came. I rewarded them. I brought them all to the Oval Office, the people having to do with that whole operation, which was so perfect, which was a total just an obliteration. When CNN, they tried to say, well, maybe it wasn't as good as Trump said it was. It's just such bad people. It turned out that it was even more so than I said. It was obliteration. The Atomic Energy Commission said this place is gone. They can maybe start up, but they're not starting up there. These guys, and you know what that is? That's sort of a hurting of our pilots. But when you look at it, when you look at what we've done and the success that we've had, and they're putting Bibi through a lot. But as far as Hamas is concerned, I said 2 weeks ago, and I said it a long time ago, you won't. Ultimately, you're going to have to fight like hell. Everyone's forgotten about October 7th. They don't like to think about October 7th. You have some people, I guess that's a soundbite, pretty much a Democrat soundbite. It's amazing that Democrats, like Schumer's a Palestinian. He's right now a Palestinian senator. We call him the Palestinian senator from New York City or New York, but I don't know. I think his career is probably over, I guess. I see polls where he gets obliterated just like we obliterated the nuclear weapons, the nuclear stockpile. That would have been, by the way, I think they would have had nuclear weapons in a period of 4 weeks.
No, you're right.
I was going to say the pilots came to the Oval Office and they said, sir, our predecessors and us have been practicing this flight for 22 years. The same flight, right to the same place where they stored the stuff. They've been practicing it. You're the only president that had the guts to let us go do it. And if we didn't do it, they would probably by this time, just about this time, have a nuclear weapon. And they would have used it. You know that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. President, we're running out of time. I just want to tell you, this audience loves you. This audience backs you.
Well, we don't
give a damn what the media have to say. They're wrong about everything, and they're on the wrong side of history, too. So we want to wish you all the best in your dealings here. These are tough with Russia and Ukraine. Thank you for what you're doing with the border and the economy. Thank you for what you're doing really for Israel, quite frankly, and your support of the state of Israel. There's a lot of Israel hatred and anti-Semitism and all the rest of this stuff swirling around, and you stand there and you fight it. So God bless you, my friend, and you are my friend.
We are, but so do you fight it. Nobody like you. And you and Sean and a few people. It's not a huge group of people because it seems to be heading in the wrong direction in many ways. But in the end, we win. We win all the time. But I just want to thank you, too.
And the best of the First Lady. That was a beautiful letter. God bless you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
All right. What a man. Just fantastic.